I want to talk about how your food actually turns into poop. When you're eating food, you chew your food. You're starting to break your food down. All the stuff that you're eating is giving information through your taste buds down lower into the digestive tract. And then you also have the stomach that has to get ready to break down the protein. Let's talk about this valve on the top of the stomach first. This valve is really important to keep the food in the stomach and from backing up into the esophagus. Because if that food backs up, you have something called acid reflux or heartburn. The real problem is the acid that you feel is just in the wrong location. It's in the esophagus or even a little bit higher when it should be in the stomach. The big mistake that people make is they start taking antacids, not realizing that they're going to start to neutralize acids in the stomach. And the more you dilute these stomach acids, the less that valve closes tightly. Instead, if you have any of these acid regurgitation problems, you should be taking more acid. It sounds counterintuitive, but it does work. You can do apple cider vinegar diluted because you don't want to take it straight because that's going to irritate your esophagus. But also you can take a really good remedy called Betaine hydrochloride. And I have done videos on this, but you'd probably take 3 or 4 or 5 right before a meal. And you're not actually taking hydrochloric acid. You're taking something that turns into hydrochloric acid. And to really understand that a little bit deeper, the stomach acid should be between 1 and 3. That is like battery acid. It's super acidic. As we age, the acid dilutes and gets weaker. By the time you're 50, your stomach acid is 50% of what it was when you were 20. If that pH is not super acid, then we don't really absorb minerals as well as we should. In that situation, we have too much bacteria in the small intestine. 90% of all the digestion occurs in the small intestine. This is where you can also get leaky gut. And leaky gut can occur if you eat a lot of things that are damaging, especially in the areas of grains. Gluten can really create problems with that. Junk food, refined sugar, seed oils, all of these things can actually create leaky gut. And then we have enzymes within the small intestine that are helping you digest. Right at the point where the stomach releases its juices into the small intestine, pancreas also has to release something to neutralize all that stomach acid, or else it's going to burn a hole in your small intestine. How do you know that you don't have enough acid in your stomach? Indigestion. So you eat food and it's just like, wow, it's just not digesting. It's kind of sitting there, telling your pancreas to get ready, start to produce enzymes. You have to then associate that with what enzyme is going to be released, because you have enzymes for protein, carbs, fats. Information is sent down to the liver and the gallbladder to prepare to digest, because we have the bile salts that are involved with that. One tip on digestion is the worse off your digestion is, the less food you should be eating. But then we also have bile. Bile is not made by your gallbladder. The bile is made by your liver. And so the liver makes the bile, it goes down a little tube, and then it goes right into the gallbladder, and it just gets concentrated to help you break down fats. So here we have the fat, okay, and here we have bile. It's a detergent. So we're going to pour it into the fat, shake it around a little bit. It helps you break down fat so you can extract the fat nutrients. Bile salts also kill off pathogens, bad bacteria in the small intestine. Your microbes actually make bile salts as well. When you become deficient in bile, you start getting bloating, burping, belching. Your vision becomes a problem. And something else happens too, gallstones. If you're eating more cholesterol, bile salts will help kind of get rid of that. The specific one I would recommend is called TUDCA. It's a very specialized type of bile salt that you take on an empty stomach. What these bile supplements do is they start to unclog the dam and just allow it to drain properly. It gives you a lot of relief. Let me just move right down to the large intestine. This is where something gets digested. You have trillions and trillions of microbes in your large intestine that are helping you break down this fiber through an interesting process of fermentation. We're feeding the microbes fiber, and then that's being converted into a type of fatty acid, which then feed the colon cells. And these trillions of microbes do so many wonderful things for you. They give you 80% of your immune system. They help you make neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine. Whatever's going on in your microbes down here is going to go on up here. When you eat food, it has to go through this entire assembly line of things that happen to the point where it ends up as poop. Poop is like mostly water. The reason why it's brown is because of the pigment in the red blood cells that ends up in your stool. And the smell of your poop, it's usually some gas from bacteria. And so it has a certain smell to it, but it can smell even worse at certain times depending on what's happening in your digestion and or a lack thereof. When you look at your poop, you can get a lot of clues on what's going on. So I'm just going to cover some general things: constipation, diarrhea, and that relates to missing microbes. When you get an antibiotic, people might tell you that those microbes will come back eventually. That's false information. And just think about how many antibiotics we take. Then there's also something else that acts like an antibiotic, Roundup Ready. Roundup Ready has a chemical in it called glyphosate. Glyphosate is an herbicide, but they also have a patent on it acting as an antibiotic because it kills off your microbes. Even things that are non-GMO like wheat are loaded with glyphosate 3 times more than genetically modified foods like soybeans and corn, things like that. One safe way to avoid glyphosate is just to avoid anything connected with grains and start eating more organic foods because the glyphosate can really mess with your microbes. So eating fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi is really important, but also raw milk cheese is a really good one. I also did a video on how to make your own probiotic from a microbe called L-reuteri. It increases something called oxytocin. It makes you more social. It helps reduce stress. It helps your sleep. Another really important tip is to do intermittent fasting, because if you're eating too much and you're cramming all this food constantly, the poor digestive system never has a chance to clean out. Another thing that I think a lot of people are doing incorrectly is drinking these smoothies with kale and banana and pineapple, and you just start drinking those in the morning. Well, again, if you have leaky gut or inflammation, you're just going to create more bloating and inflammation because you're dumping too much fiber down there. Of course, I used to recommend it, and for some people, they would thrive on it because they needed that, but it's not a good overall recommendation for everyone. 90% of chronic disease is coming from your food, and most medications are treating the side effects of bad food. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.